After that unsettling encounter, a cloud of unease settled over me, casting a shadow on my cherished memories of the cabin in the woods. The incident left me with lingering questions and a profound vulnerability. The persistent fear that someone might still be lurking in the dense wilderness gnawed at my mind. As time passed, my curiosity and concern continued to grow. I desperately wanted to unravel the mystery of that morning, seeking closure and a chance to understand the stranger's intentions. Yet, I couldn't ignore the inner voice cautioning me to steer clear of the remote wilderness. Months turned into years, and my trips to Alaska became infrequent. What were once cherished hunting expeditions with my uncle and Simon had transformed into distant memories tainted by fear and suspicion. Whenever the cabin was brought up, I deflected the conversation, unwilling to share my unease with family and friends, fearing they'd dismiss it as a product of an overactive imagination. Life moved forward, and I tried to bury the unsettling episode deep within, hoping it would fade away. But the sense of unfinished business persisted, like an unsolved puzzle. Was the stranger merely a lost hiker seeking shelter, or was it something more sinister, a concealed crime in the remote wilderness? I found solace in avoiding the cabin altogether. Each time my uncle invited me for a hunting trip, I conjured excuses to evade the haunting memories in my mind. This reluctance strained my relationship with my uncle, who couldn't comprehend my sudden aversion. As years passed, my curiosity outweighed my trepidation. I began researching any news or local incidents that might shed light on my experience. Yet, the vastness of Alaska offered no easy answers, and the internet revealed no reported crimes matching that chilling morning. Unable to silence my thoughts, I confided in a close friend about my ordeal, hoping sharing the burden would offer relief. My friend listened empathetically, urging me to release the past and reassuring me that dwelling on the unknown wouldn't provide closure. Deep down, I knew he was right. Ruminating on the past only fueled my anxiety and fear. It was time to make peace with the unknown, to acknowledge that some mysteries might forever remain unsolved. With newfound determination, I decided to confront my fears head-on. I mustered the courage to return to the cabin, determined to face the memories that had haunted me for so long. As I stood before the familiar wooden structure, memories both pleasant and haunting rushed back. Still, I refused to let fear dominate my emotions. During my stay, I ventured into the woods, retracing my steps from that fateful morning. The tree stand remained unchanged by time, and I found myself lost in thought. I acknowledged that I might never uncover the truth, and that realization brought bittersweet acceptance. Alaska's vast and untamed wilderness harbored countless secrets, and my encounter was just one of them, a fragment of a larger story lost in nature's expanse. I resolved to honor the memory of my beloved hunting trips by cherishing the happy moments spent in the cabin, rather than dwelling on the unknown. As the years passed, my fondness for the cabin in the woods rekindled, and I occasionally returned to relive the cherished memories. While the question of that haunting encounter remained unanswered, I discovered a newfound appreciation for life's mysteries. Some things are meant to be left to the enigmatic beauty of the wilderness, reminding me that we can't always control or comprehend every aspect of the world around us. And so, my life continued, enriched by a sense of acceptance and a newfound respect for the unpredictable journey it had taken. The cabin in Alaska remained a special place, not just for the thrill of hunting, but for the profound lessons it had imparted on me. A reminder that sometimes the most profound experiences are those that remain shrouded in mystery. In the past, I worked as a long-haul truck driver, responsible for transporting people's possessions to their new homes, while they took flights to their destinations. It was a decent job, although it could be quite solitary, with many hours spent alone on desolate highways crisscrossing the country. On one fateful night, I found myself driving down an isolated desert highway when I spotted an unexpected sight. A lone figure walking along the roadside. Encounters like this were extremely rare in such remote areas, especially at that late hour. As I drew closer, I discerned that the person was hitchhiking, extending a thumb in the universal gesture of seeking a ride. In an instant, a wave of empathy washed over me, stirring memories of my own financial struggles in my early 20s, when I lacked a vehicle of my own. Reflecting on those tough times, I felt a strong urge to help this stranger. He appeared entirely ordinary, dressed in slightly worn clothing and carrying a suitcase. There was nothing suspicious about his appearance. I decided to pull the truck over, rolled down the window, and watched as he approached cautiously, his eyes reflecting weariness tinged with hope. Offering him a ride, I explained that I was a moving truck driver with some extra space to spare. He accepted gratefully, placing his bag in the back seat before joining me up front. We exchanged a few polite words, and I could sense his sincere gratitude for the assistance. It was a heartwarming feeling to extend a helping hand to someone in need, especially when they reminded me of my own past hardships. Curiosity piqued, I asked him about his destination. His response, however, raised some concerns, as he mentioned a desire to go anywhere but back there. I assumed he referred to a small town I had passed about 20 minutes ago, but to be cautious, I played dumb and asked for more details. Unexpectedly, he replied cryptically, mentioning really bad choices and an absence of regret. Feeling a growing unease, I chuckled nervously in an attempt to break the tension. I decided to press him further, given his enigmatic response. When I asked him to clarify, there was an abrupt shift in his demeanor. His gaze locked onto mine, and his smile vanished. In a chilling moment, he lifted his shirt, revealing a large hunting knife tucked into his pants. Fear gripped me as he confessed that his suitcase didn't contain clothes, but rather the body of someone named enlisted. The full name escapes my memory. Terrified, I fought to maintain composure, focusing on the road while my mind raced with dread. I knew I had made a grave mistake by allowing this man into my truck, but confronting him about his claims seemed far too dangerous. I needed to find a way out of this situation, and as luck would have it, I spotted a gas station ahead. I quickly concocted an excuse about a malfunctioning trunk and pulled into the station's parking lot. The moment the truck came to a stop, I scrambled out of the driver's seat and hurried into the store, leaving the hitchhiker behind. In a state of panic, I urged the cashier to call the police and recounted the terrifying encounter. The cashier promptly dialed 911, and I waited anxiously at the back of the store. It felt like an eternity, but eventually 2 officers arrived, and I provided them with my statement, imploring them to search my truck. To my utter horror, both the hitchhiker and his suitcase had vanished. He had disappeared into the desert, and despite organizing a search, the police could find no trace of him. To this day, I continue to wonder about the true contents of that suitcase and whether he had actually committed a crime. The police speculated that he might have been mentally ill and uttering nonsense, but my initial impression of him suggested otherwise. I've come to accept that I'll never unravel the truth behind that bone-chilling encounter. Back in 1993, I co-owned a gas station situated in a remote, unheard-of small town that's unlikely to ring any bells for you. With a lean staff, I often found myself manning the cash register deep into the night. While we weren't operating around the clock, our doors remained unlocked until 3 a.m. One particular night is etched vividly in my memory. It was around 2:30 a.m., and there hadn't been a customer in sight for quite some time. Taking advantage of the lull, I began tidying up the store, getting ready to close for the night. As I stood in one corner of the establishment, a sudden jingle from the door caught me off guard, indicating the arrival of an unexpected visitor. Filled with curiosity, I made my way around a shelf to welcome the person who had just stepped inside. This tall, slender man was dressed in sweatpants, stained with an ominous hue of red, and a light-coloured t-shirt. Naturally, concern welled up within me as I wondered what had transpired. The man, visibly agitated and panting heavily, explained that he had been involved in a car accident just moments ago. I offered him reassurance, mentioning that we had a first aid kit on hand, and even suggested calling an ambulance. However, he vehemently declined any medical assistance or involvement of law enforcement. Instead, he asked to use our restroom, and I directed him to its location. As he walked away, he repeatedly emphasized not involving the police, which started to raise my suspicions. I began to think critically about the situation and realized that despite the blood on his clothing, I hadn't noticed any visible wounds on his body. Furthermore, his movements appeared too composed for someone who had just experienced a car crash. My heart raced as I hurried outside to the payphone on the side of our building and dialed 911. A female dispatcher picked up, and I whispered my account of the bizarre encounter with the man. During the conversation, she disclosed that a stabbing homicide had taken place in a nearby town only half an hour ago. When I inquired about the suspect's description, I was horrified to hear her describing the very man I had encountered at my gas station. Tall, slender, clad in grey sweatpants, and a light-coloured t-shirt. Terrified, I pleaded for immediate police assistance and was instructed to remain in my car with the doors securely locked. Within minutes, 5 police vehicles with officers brandishing drawn weapons surrounded our store. I provided my statement to one of the officers outdoors while they prepared to enter the building. As the officers ventured inside, a sudden uproar echoed from within the gas station. Apparently, the man in the restroom had assaulted one of the officers with a knife as they opened the door. Fortunately, they managed to subdue him with the assistance of several other officers. He was handcuffed and confined to a patrol car. Driven by curiosity, years later, I decided to delve into the man's background. It transpired that he had been charged with the murder of a Dairy Queen employee in the neighbouring town. Presently, he is serving a life sentence behind bars.